Sister, were you texting for the Black Parent Teleconference?
Yes.
Okay, where you based at, my queen?
I'm based out of Bryan, Texas.
Bryan, Texas, and that's closest to what major city, good sister?
Houston.
Houston, Texas. All right. Go right ahead with your question, good sister.
How do I prepare my young Black child for the future?
Oh, that's a very broad question. How old is your child now?
She is 1.
Okay, 1 year old. So I'm going to give you 3 things you need to do between now and kindergarten. Number 1, you want to make sure the toys that you buy for your baby are toys that stimulate her intellectual development.
Gotcha.
So, you want to get the Legos, you want to get the building blocks, any problem-solving toys. Any problem-solving toys is what she needs. Also, you want to expose her to literacy right now. You want to read to her. You want to start going over the letters with her. Get the flashcards with the letters. Get the flashcards with the numbers. Okay. Get the flashcards with the different bodies of the bones. All kinds of factual information that she's going to need. Colors, sizes, shapes, letters, numbers. You want to go through that with your baby every day.
Gotcha. I can do that. I'm a teacher, so
yes,
I've already been implementing that. I just know that with everything that's happening right now, it's kind of scary. So I just want to make sure that she's prepared for, what's to come to her, as she gets older.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And here's the thing. In our community, a lot of times we do things backwards. So we will give them cartoons all day long. Or we would give them a cell phone all day long. Because, the cell phone keeps them busy because it's very interesting, but it's not stimulating development. The cell phone is destroying our young children's ability to focus and concentrate. So by the time they get to kindergarten, after playing on the cell phone from birth to age 5, because it keeps them quiet, they get to kindergarten, and now the Snow Bunny teacher wants them tested for ADHD. Now, all of a sudden, we think your daughter has ADHD. She can't focus. She can't concentrate. That's because she's been on the cell phone for 5 years. Children under kindergarten, and I'm going to say children under 3rd grade, really shouldn't have a cell phone. They really should not have a cell phone because it destroys concentration and it destroys focus. Also, from a cultural perspective, make sure you don't have any non-African images in your home. That's everything from the white Jesus to the Bible. That's the white cartoons. You can't do it. All black cartoons. All black. The coloring books should be of black characters, because you got to understand something. When your baby leaves your house and goes to preschool, daycare, grade school, she's going to be inundated with white images. Everything's going to be white once she gets to school.
Yes.
So you have to make sure she knows who she is, and you got to make sure she loves who she is before she leaves your house. So you have no time for any other play toys except black toys. Because you get some parents who say, because we're so anti-black that we'll say things like, well, I don't want my child to be a racist, so she got a Latino doll and an Asian doll and an Arab doll.
Oh, no, she gonna know her color.
How many white families you think have a black doll baby? How many Chinese families you think got a black doll baby? How many Latino families you think got a black doll baby? You inundate your baby with herself.
Yeah.
All the pictures in the house, nothing but blackness. Your house must be a sanctuary for black divinity. From the time she walk in to the time she leave. And if you need some resources with regard to culturally appropriate characters, cartoons, and comic books and coloring books, there's 3 bookstores I recommend. Okay. One of the bookstores is Everyone's Place in Baltimore, Maryland. Everyone's Place in Baltimore, Maryland. It's on North Avenue. Brother Not T, he's probably the largest black book distributor on the East Coast, maybe in the country. He's also a fellow Pan-Africanist Garveyite. And you could call the store and say, Dr. Umar referred me. Whoever picks up and say, I'm looking for, some culturally relevant books for my daughter, coloring books, posters. They got everything you need.
Okay, and then remind me one more time, Zach, can you write this on your phone?
No problem.
'Cause I have really
And
bad
I'm going to
memory.
give you 3 of them. No problem. The first one is
Okay.
Everyone's Place.
The first one is Everyone's Place?
Yes, Everyone's Place is the name of it. It's on North
Okay,
Avenue.
what's the next one? North Avenue.
North Avenue. So when you Google it, it's going to come up. When you put Everyone's Place Baltimore, it's going to come up.
And she's going to give me 2 more. Okay, perfect. And what's the other
The
one?
second one is No Source of Knowledge.
No Source of Knowledge.
No, not no, just Source of Knowledge. 3 words.
Oh, Source of Knowledge.
Yes.
Sorry.
Source of Knowledge bookstore. And that's in Newark, New Jersey.
Newark, New Jersey.
867 Broad Street, Newark, New Jersey.
Okay, perfect. Wait, baby. And the last one?
The last one is in my birth city of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And this will be Hakim's Bookstore.
Hakim's Bookstore.
HAKIM''S. Hakim's.
Perfect.
And
I
that's
think my
on,
sister is very intelligent
yes.
with the spelling.
That's
so.
that's on 52nd Street, West Philadelphia. But if you put in Hakim's Bookstore, Hakim's is the second oldest continuously operating black bookstore in the United States.
Gotcha.
So Everyone's Place, Baltimore, Source of Knowledge, Newark, New Jersey, and Hakim's Bookstore, 52nd Street in Philadelphia.
I appreciate that so much. I'm literally going to be looking up all of these different things because, again, I just really want to prepare her and just for her to love herself and not feel like she has to diminish herself because other people want her to do that. Like,
That's
no,
right.
she needs to love herself.
That's right.
So, I am really, truly wanting that. And I truly appreciate you for your time. I'm sure you're very, very busy.
No
So,
problem, Queen. I appreciate you. Be safe out there and make
Thank
sure she
you,
love
you
herself.
too.
We not
I
multicultural.
will.
We proud of ourselves. All right,
Yes,
Queen.
we are.
Be
Alrighty.
blessed, baby. All right, now. All right, that was a good call. Shout out to Sister Trinell. Who we got? If you have a question about your son or daughter, if you know someone who has a question about their son or daughter, tell them they need to text Dr. Umar right now. Tell them they need to text Dr. Umar right now. First name and city, 215-989-9858. 215-989-9858. If you have a question about your son or daughter, I apologize for the late start this morning. But if you have a question about your son or daughter, now is the time. Two 215-989-9858 is going down today at Eastern Michigan University, 4 o'clock.
Hello.
Peace and love, Sister Dr. Umar. How are you?
Great. How are you?
Okay. What's your first name, beautiful?
Christina.
Christina. Where you based at, Sister Christina?
I'm in Kentucky.
What part?
I'm Florence, Kentucky. It's like 10 minutes from Cincinnati.
Okay. I'm going to be speaking in Cincinnati on February the 20th in honor of the Honorable Frederick Douglass on the day that he joined the ancestors, February the 20th. But unfortunately, the event is sold out. But I will be I might be coming to Louisville the day before or the day after. So I'm working on that. I'll keep you posted. But I know you text your question, but go ahead and give it to me verbally if you don't mind.
Well, I have a 6-year-old boy. So first and foremost, I'm in Kentucky and I'm in Boone County. So it's predominantly white. And I have a 6-year-old boy, and he is just very, very hyper. um, I guess you could say he has like problems with like emotional regulation. And at the time when I texted to you, I didn't have an IEP, but because of his outbursts in school and his teachers and the principal, they would call my home or call me at work repeatedly about his behavior. I ended up putting him on an IEP.
You
Although I
ended up
know
putting
that
him on. Hold on. You ended up putting him on what?
an IEP.
Okay. Now okay. And what grade is he in again? I'm sorry.
He's in the first grade.
He's in the first grade. He has
Yes,
an
baby, I'm talking
IEP.
about you.
Is
He
that
does.
IEP only for speech or is it for something else?
No, it's just for his behavior.
Okay. So your son has an IEP and you say it's just for behavior.
Just for behavior.
Okay.
Academically, he's great.
Okay.
But his behavior.
Let me explain something to you. In order for your son to have an IEP, individual education program, which is the vehicle of special education, in order to have an IEP, which means he is a special education student in the state of Kentucky, he must have been evaluated and classified with one of 13 learning disabilities. I'm going to give them to you. Okay, behavior is not one of the 13 disabilities. So even though they may have given him an IEP for behavior, they had to give him a disability in order for him to have the IEP, because behavior is not a disability. So they either had to say he was emotionally disturbed, learning disabled, intellectually disabled, speech and language impairment, deafness, blindness, brain injury, orthopedically impaired, hearing impairment, developmental delay, a child who is both deaf and blind, and there's one or two other disabilities. So if he has an IEP, he has one of those 13. So which one is it?
I would imagine it's the emotional.
Okay, now you said you would imagine. Do you have the IEP in front of you?
I don't have it in front of me. I can look for it.
Okay. What about the psychological evaluation or the speech evaluation?
So my son has a speech. He has a speech disability. He's no longer in speech. So, okay. When he was 3, his pediatrician said, hey, he needs to be evaluated for speech. So we had him take speech classes, and he was right on the cusp. So like the speech pathologist said, if he would have been evaluated just a few months earlier, he wouldn't have qualified. So he was right on the cusp. So right now, he's not in speech because he doesn't technically qualify. He's not at a deficit in the school, according to the school. Does that make sense? I'm not making sense, but
No. Okay. Okay. So let me ask you this.
yeah.
I believe your son has an IEP for speech only. That's what I believe. I believe the IEP is for
Really?
speech and language impairment. Okay. Now, when was he first evaluated and classified with a speech impairment? When was this? Did he get tested this school year? Was it last year? Was it preschool? When did he first get evaluated?
So he was evaluated when he was 3. So he's 6 now. So this is probably 2.5 years ago.
Okay.
He was evaluated for speech.
Okay. Okay. Now, a child with an IEP in America must be reevaluated every 3 years. So my question to you is, if he was 3, he's 6 now, right?
He's 6 now.
Has there been any conversation with the school about him being reevaluated this year?
So he's being reevaluated next Monday.
Okay. So he's being reevaluated for the speech next Monday.
It's an IEP meeting.
Right. But hear what I'm saying. I want to make sure you follow me.
I don't think it's for speech because that's what I'm saying. So for example, my son, he's not taken out of class to go to speech. Does that make sense? So my son is taken out of class it's like an emotional regulation.
So then he might.
That's why he's taken out.
Okay, let me share a couple things with you, and let me say this before I do.
Okay.
I'm going to need you to master the special ed process so they don't take
Right.
advantage of your son.
I know. I
Okay?
know. No.
Because right now, you ain't got the particulars down. And if you in a predominantly white neighborhood, you need to have the particulars down because they will railroad your son. So
Yes.
you said he no longer gets speech therapy. Is that correct? He's no longer being
Right.
pulled out once a week to get his 30 to 60 minutes of speech therapy with the speech pathologist. You said he's no longer getting that.
Right. So okay. And that's why I feel so, this is why I text, because I feel bad and I'm taking up so much time. But so my son was, he was in preschool and kindergarten. I'm sorry, before he started kindergarten. So I just had like private sessions with Children's Hospital. So when he was enrolled in school, he never qualified. Does that make sense? So when he went to kindergarten and then he went to the first grade, he didn't qualify for that service because he just wasn't at a deficit. Like he wasn't, I
Okay,
guess,
so
that bad.
if I'm hearing what you're saying, he got speech through your health insurance,
Yeah,
but
just my
he
insurance.
never qualified for speech and language impairment and services through public school.
Right.
Okay. But if he has an IEP, he qualified for some disability.
Right.
You follow me? If he has an
Right, I do follow
IEP,
that.
he qualified for some disability. So but you're not sure what that disability is.
Like I said, it's to my understanding, it's for emotional regulation because there is no other disability listed. But I'm listening.
Okay, does it say emotional disturbance or serious emotional
I
disturbance?
want to say serious emotional disturbance, and I'm looking for the paper. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Now, I'm a little upset, but this is not your fault, okay?
Right.
Don't ever let a school district, black school, white school, any school, evaluate your 5 or 6 year old for an emotional disturbance. Never. Never. He's too young for that. They're criminalizing your son already. 6 years old, emotionally disturbed. You were supposed to have talked to me before this. You should have texted me before you did this.
I did text.
No. Then you should have called me, or you should have said, Dr. Umar, we need to do this. Or you should have just paid for a consultation so you would have been on my radar, because he should have never got that label put on him. Because the problem now is any school he goes to, they're going to see black boy emotionally disturbed already in first grade. Already. And your son is going to be stigmatized. Now, let me ask you this. Was he evaluated this school year, meaning since September? Was he evaluated in kindergarten? When did they evaluate him and say he was emotionally disturbed?
So I believe, next Monday is his reevaluation. So this time last year when he was in kindergarten. So towards the end of kindergarten, he was evaluated for this emotional behavior. And
let me share this with you. Let me share this with you. Hold on, I'm sorry, I'm chewing. Let me finish this chew.
Oh, it's fine.
Okay. What I was going to say was, a child with an IEP in America gets reevaluated every 3 years. You follow me?
Yes, sir.
Every 3 years. If your son was evaluated last year and given an IEP, there really wouldn't be a need for them to reevaluate him again this year. They can, but they don't have to. And if he's already classified with an emotional disturbance, they don't have to reevaluate him for 2 more years because it's every 3 years. Now, let me ask you this. Is it possible that your son had an IEP for speech? I know you said he didn't qualify, but he has an IEP. So I'm wondering, did he have an IEP for speech and now they want to reevaluate him for emotional disturbance? Could that be it?
The only reason why I don't think they're he had an IEP for speech because he's not taken out of class for speech. Does that make sense? So that's why that's my only suggestion. I really don't know, and I should know. I should, but the impression that I have, because my son, he's very smart. Like, he's probably on the spectrum, but I just don't want that diagnosis. Do you know what I'm saying? So he's very, very smart. He's really intelligent. He just has these emotional outbursts. He just cannot regulate his emotions. And they take him out of class to work on that. And what I've noticed is that the entire class is just boys. And I've explained to the school, like, I think it's just a boy thing. Like, I think they just want him to be like a little docile girl. And he's not. He's a boy. He's active. He's hyper. But that is where I think the IEP is. Because, again, they're not helping him in any capacity for speech.
Okay.
So I would think if they're taking him, the IEPs for speech, they would have to help him in some way for speech.
Okay. So
and they're not.
Let me ask you this. What exactly is he doing? Describe the behaviors. What led to...
Oh my gosh, Dr. Umar, I have an Excel document. They have an Excel worksheet where they document the time, the behavior, what happened up until the behavior, what the actual behavior was, and what they did to treat it. So for example, my son, he's really hard on himself. So if he is... For example, they're working on math minutes. If they get 2 minutes to finish 20 problems, if he doesn't finish his minutes within 20 minutes, or the math problems within 20 minutes, then he has an emotional outburst. So he'll start throwing stuff. Like, he'll throw a chair. He'll hit his teacher. He cries. Like, the crying is like uncontrollable sometimes. They'll call me on the phone, and it'll take me 5 minutes just to get him to calm down.
Okay, where is his biological father?
I know, Dr. Umar, this is really embarrassing. So I'm married. His dad is with us. But him and I have two different approaches to, like, parenting. So I feel like I'm more strict and he's very
The father
chill.
is in the house?
Yes.
And his son is classified as emotionally disturbed?
Yes.
So what is he doing? Is he active? Is he involved?
He's involved. Like I said, he just has a different approach.
Well, what is his approach? Because your son is at a predominantly white school.
I know.
Diagnosed with emotional disturbance. So what is his approach? What is he doing?
I know. And this is where, maybe I should just pay for a consultation, because I don't mind paying for it. But that's where we have issues, because, again, we have actually I have two boys, and I have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. My 3-year-old's not like this. My 6-year-old's like this. And like I said, he's probably on the spectrum, but I'm like, he has to be on a routine.
You don't need no more labels right now, sweethart.
I know.
He only 6. Slow down with these labels. Labels are not solution. No more labels. No more labels. I'm going to tell you something else, too. You are going to have to consider moving back into a black neighborhood, because if the father is not going to step up and help his son develop self-control so we can get that emotional disturbance category removed from his record, if the dad ain't going to step up, your son is going to get lynched. He's going to be academically lynched in that white school. They are going to try to destroy your baby. They're already criminalizing him. I wish we would have spoke before you get... He's a black boy in a white school classified as emotionally disturbed. He's already being criminalized. So, the black schools ain't good, but at least we don't have to worry as much about the criminalization. It still happens there too, but I'm very, very concerned about your son being in that kind of environment without the support that he needs from his father. This is very dangerous. This is very, very dangerous. I don't like it at all. Is he on medication?
He's not, because I refuse to put him on medication.
Good job.
Now, like I said, I didn't want to do the IEP, and I know you had like a video and you said, don't ever put your kid on the IEP. It's the worst thing you can do. And I follow you.
Well, unless they really have a disability. So if they are really autistic, if they are really intellectually disabled, if they really have a problem, then you have no choice. The problem is, in the black community, we put kids on IEPs, because they have trouble focusing a little bit. So, every kid got trouble focusing a little bit, or they have a little trouble with their reading or their math. Get them a tutor. Don't get them special ed. The problem with our learned helplessness, we as a people in this country as a consequence of slavery, we suffer from learned helplessness. So we are very quick to throw in the towel. We are very quick to give up. And our children are suffering from that because black parents are so quick to think their child has a problem just because they're having a little bit of a struggle sometimes.
Right.
So, okay, a couple things I want to share with you, but you have a homework assignment, and that is I need you to find his evaluation, speech eval, psych eval. If they classified him as emotionally disturbed, then he has a psychological evaluation, or they might call it psychoeducational evaluation. He has that if he's emotionally disturbed. So I need you to find that and find the IEP. I need those two documents in order to properly help you. But let me share this with you. I'm going to share this with you. Your son can only be suspended 10 days. Make sure you keep track of the suspension days. He can only be suspended a total of 10 days. After he's been suspended 10 days, the IEP team has to conduct a manifestation determination. In other words, an 11th day of suspension for your son. An 11th day of suspension for your son is considered a change of placement for a special ed child. You cannot change the placement of a special ed child, meaning give him an 11th day or more of suspension unless the IEP team conducts a manifestation determination. The manifestation determination is a fancy word. It's a very fancy word that simply says the behavior for which we want to remove this child from school for an additional day, is it related to his disability, or is it related to the failure of the IEP to be designed or implemented correctly? So let's say he get into a fight and they want to suspend him an 11th day. The question is, was that fight related to his disability? Of course it was. He's emotionally disturbed. So that means they cannot suspend him. They instead have to revisit the IEP. They have to revisit the behavior plan. They have to revisit the functional behavioral assessment and work with your son. So you have to keep track of his suspension days. That's number one. Number two, and this is very important. Have you ever been invited to the school to help them design or develop a functional behavioral assessment? Have you ever heard that?
No.
What about a positive behavior plan? Have you ever heard that?
No.
Okay, so once you find the psych eval and once you find the IEP, you're going to schedule a consultation because you're going to have to write a letter to the school. And that letter is going to talk about the school's failure to provide your son with a functional behavioral assessment and a positive behavior plan. Every special ed child in America must have a functional behavioral assessment and positive behavior plan if they have behavioral issues. Your son clearly has behavioral issues, so why haven't they conducted the functional behavioral assessment and a positive behavior plan? In addition to that, good sister, in addition to that, your son should have a one-to-one aide in the classroom. Have they ever offered you a one-to-one aide to sit with your son? Not all day, but during those periods where he's most likely to be distracted. Have they ever offered you a one-to-one aide to sit with your son in class?
There isn't. She's a teacher. So I forget her name, but she's his special education teacher.
Stop right there.
No?
Stop right there. Listen to me. Every decision involving your son is not made by any individual. Follow me on this. The IEP team, let me tell you who's supposed to be on your son's IEP team. There are 4 required people and any additional persons you want. There are 4 required people and any additional persons you want. There are 4 required people of an IEP team. A legally constituted IEP team are yourself as the parent and his father when he wakes up out of his coma. Okay? The special ed teacher, the regular ed teacher, and the principal, or whoever the principal designates to chair that IEP meeting. So anything involving your son, those decisions are not made by his teacher. Those decisions are made by his IEP team, which includes you. You follow me?
Yes.
So make sure they're not bullying you in there and doing whatever they want. You need to tell them, We have to have an IEP meeting to discuss this. That should be your response every time. We need to have an IEP meeting to discuss this. And if they say we don't have time for an IEP meeting, can you please send me a letter or an email stating you don't have time for an IEP meeting to discuss my son's issues? Whenever they say something that sounds wrong, ask them to put it in writing, because what you have to develop, good sister, is a paper trail. You need a paper trail, because sooner or later, you may have to take that school district to due process, or you may have to sue them for racial discrimination for unfairly targeting your son or not providing him with the special ed services that the federal government mandates for him. So again, 3 things should have been done with your son that ain't been done. 1-to-1 aid, functional behavioral assessment, positive behavior plan. Because if your son does something really, really wrong, let's say he, God forbid, he throws a chair and hits somebody in the head, right? They're going to try to expel him. But guess what? Without that FBA and without that positive behavior plan, they can't really expel him because they neglected their duties. You follow what I'm saying?
Yes, I do. I understand that.
Also, you need to, you might have to hire a psychologist or a behavior specialist to go into your son's classroom and observe him in the classroom. You may have to do that because you don't really know what's going on in that classroom. How you know he's not being bullied, picked on, singled out by the teacher? So you need to Google black psychologists in Kentucky. You also need to Google black behavioral specialists in Kentucky. And you tell them, I would like to hire you to go into my son's school and observe his behavior. And then you write a letter to the principal saying, I've hired a psychologist or behavior specialist who's going to go into my son's school and observe his behavior.
No, I can do that.
Okay. But your next step is to find the evaluation and to find the IEP. Once you do that, you're going to schedule a consultation with me because you're going to draft a letter to the principal that's going to include everything they haven't done for your son. Okay, so let me ask you this. He's in the regular classroom and he just gets pulled out for his emotional support. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And he has no outside diagnosis of ADHD, correct?
No.
Good. Don't
because
get
like I said, I just don't. Right, I'm not going to.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
I know.
I don't know why black people are still getting their children evaluated for ADHD. It makes no sense at all. All they're going to do is give them drugs. It makes no sense why any parent in any other 50 states and territories of the United States in 2025 are still getting their children tested for ADHD when we know all they want to do is give them dope. But with that being said, Queen, I'm not going to hold you. I want to give you this one last piece. If you can't find the eval or the IEP, if you can't find the eval or the IEP, you can write a letter to the principal, okay, requesting a complete copy of your son's academic record, and it's called FERPA 1974. If you're taking notes, I want you to write down FERPA. FERPA, that stands for Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act 1974. This gives you a complete copy of your child's records from the school, and they have to give it to you within 45 days.
Right. And honestly, I mean, I don't know. Of course, I don't. Sometimes I feel like I'm not a good judge of character because I feel like the school wants to support my son in a positive way. So I know that I could call them and just get the information. But at the same time, I'm just like, am I just being naive? You know, I don't know.
I'm gonna tell you,
right
now. I'm gonna tell you right now. I've been a school psychologist for 25 years. 25 years. If you think that white school really wants to support your black son, and they already labeled him as emotionally disturbed. If you think that white school really wants to support your black son, and they've already labeled him as emotionally disturbed, you're being a little naive, my queen. You're being a little naive. If they wanted to work with your son, he would not be walking around with no emotional disturbance label at 6. They don't want to help your son.
Okay.
So please get over that.
Okay.
Okay? Trump's back in office. White folks are celebrating on us. Don't be naive, sister. They are not on your side.
All
okay?
Right.
So once you
I have
get that
a homework.
paperwork, or once you request that paperwork, if you can't find it, you text me so we can schedule the consult so we can get this letter done. We got to put some stuff in place right now before it gets out of hand.
Of course. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate
No problem, Queen. Stay in touch.
you. Thanks. Bye.
All right now. One love.